Okay, so now moving on to egg and sperm adaptations, HS 1.1.2. So starting from the most outside, you've got the cumula cells, and these are shown here, and these are surrounded by an extracellular matrix. As we move deeper, you've got the zona pellucida, which is a thick, clear coating which encapsulates the egg, shown here. And then you've got the oocyte, which means egg plasma membrane, surrounding the oocyte itself. So there's the nucleus, and there's a meiotic spindle shown there. So the cumula cells that I mentioned on the most outer surface, they're the barriers to sperm. So sperm needs to push between them in order to get to the zona pellucida. The zona pellucida, as I said, is a thick, clear coating which encapsulates the egg, and this is a solid barrier to sperm entry into the oocyte. And finally, you've got the oocyte plasma membrane itself, which surrounds the egg and contains receptors for sperm binding. In terms of sperm adaptations, apart from the obvious tails for swimming and head, you've got two different sets of enzymes. You've got the acrosome bag of enzymes, which is on the very tip here, and you've got the membrane-bound enzymes, which are further back slightly. So in terms of fertilization, sort of like as a whole, what needs to happen? Well, the sperm needs to attach to the zona pellucida, which is the thick, clear coating which encapsulates the egg, and it needs to penetrate it. It then needs to penetrate the oocyte plasma membrane and fuse with the nucleus. And if we look at fertilization in sort of a bit more detail, so first you've got the outer membrane, and the acrosome opens, which is the very tip, the acrosome bag of enzymes. That allows it to go through the cumula cells and the extracellular matrix which surrounds them. Then the membrane enzymes, they drill through the zona pellucida. Then the receptors, then they bind to the sperm binds to the receptors on the oocyte plasma membrane and fuses through the plasma membrane. When the egg is fertilized, the layers need to change in order to prevent polyspermy. So what happens is that the egg has, once it's fertilized, the plasma membrane shows fewer receptors for sperm binding, and it also cross-links. So this makes the zona pellucida tougher to prevent those membrane enzymes from drilling through the zona pellucida. And as I said, these two things, they prevent polyspermy. And then once in order for the fusion itself to happen, well, the egg is the female pronuclear. Pro means like a precursor, so the egg is the female pronuclear, sperm is the male pronuclei. They fuse, and this produces a diploid zygote, which then undergoes mitosis. The zygote then moves through the oviduct, which is shown here, so it moves this way through the oviduct. And what's important to note is that it receives metabolic support via diffusion through the zona pellucida. The next sort of like stage of development is the zygote becoming a morula, and what a morula is once the zygote has undergone mitosis and cells have enlarged, when each cell is large enough to make a separate individual, at that point it's called a morula.